All right, welcome to all of our viewers. I am here today with Evelyn Ennis for one of our episode extras. Thanks for checking out this clip with us. You can always find episode extras and more at our website. That's AOTAshow.com. Evelyn, thank you so much for sticking around for a little bit of conversation. We had, I think, a great talk on the panel earlier, and I'm glad we get a little bit of time to learn more about what you're doing.
Awesome.
Yeah. So let's kind of jump right in. You are a 6th grade math and science teacher at George Washington Carver Middle School in South Los Angeles, and are doing some interesting things with iPads and blended learning software in your classroom. So tell us about that. What are you implementing and how does it work?
So previous to this year, I actually was piloting Dreambox. It's a personal learning app where students get individualized instruction for math. It actually helped fill in the gaps for a lot of our students, being that most of our students are actually far below grade level. So it was phenomenal to use. This year, however, we actually transitioned to iReady, which is not just for math, but it's for English as well, which is great because it's finally everything in one platform. We've been using that for our diagnostics. I've been using MobiMax. A lot of my students have found it a lot helpful because they were able to do a lot of repetitive practice at their own pace.
Yeah, I think that students working at their own pace is one of the more interesting aspects of what technology offers us in the classroom, right? It's one of the hardest things to do as a human being in the classroom is differentiate for 30 different kids who are working at 30 different paces, and you know, certainly there's only so much that you with one brain and one body can do at a time with that. So
yeah, and previous to this, I had to make, you know, numerous copies of different worksheets at different levels. Now I actually have a platform that I can assign certain lessons to, or the lessons are automatically assigned based on student needs.
So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, like the impact that these tools have had on your practice, and then also on kind of the student experience. Like, what is it like to be a kid in Miss Ennis's class?
So at the beginning of the year, they're really excited because we have one-to-one iPads in our classroom, and they're able, well, I introduce them to the program first. I tell them no one's program is going to be exactly the same because you're all at different levels, and I'm able to kind of look at what standards we're working on in 6th grade, and it actually breaks down that standards based on the previous standards they needed to know in their previous grades. So what ends up happening is most of my students do have significant gaps. So it kind of teaches them the 3rd grade prerequisite, their 4th grade prerequisite, and slowly brings them up until they're finally at their 6th grade prerequisite. But what's amazing about it is that it doesn't stop there. If they have completely mastered, like some of my gifted students have, then it actually brings them to 7th grade and 8th grade standards, which is phenomenal because a lot of the 7th and 8th grade teachers are saying that the kids are actually understanding the concept at a much higher rate than they have in previous years.
Wow. And so, so the second part of that question about like, what's it like to be a kid? You know, I know that not every classroom at your school has one-to-one devices, and not every teacher is perhaps as bought in or as well experienced with these tools as yourself. So give us some insight. Like, what is it like for the students when they come into your class? You know, apart from the kind of coolness of having an iPad, you know, what's the learning experience like?
Well, they're actually able to come to me and say, hey, Miss Ennis, like, I need you to assign this standard for me. And so all I do is open up my laptop, I look for the standard that they need to work on, and I assign it to them. So it's them becoming more aware of, I need this. Miss Ennis could assign it to me so I can get this, and kind of finally being able to have some kind of success after being so so unsuccessful for so many years. So this is now finally a safe environment where I'm not judging them on the fact that they don't know. I'm actually just helping them to reach their goals and making sure that they're getting 6th grade content as well.
So it sounds to me like you're really describing sort of a greater degree of ownership over the learning process from the students.
Yes.
Which, is something that's been written about and talked about in education and learning theory for forever, probably, right? So that's really powerful. So, hearing you talk, that all sounds great. And it sounds to me like, well, shouldn't everyone be doing this? Shouldn't we just get iPads and get these programs for all teachers, and then everything will be good, right? What do you think about that?
It's a lot of work.
I imagine it's not as easy as you're making it sound.
No, it's a lot of work. I think the hardest part was me getting to know the program and me figuring out, well, this is what I can use, this is how to use the program before I can get my students there. Because if I didn't tell them that I could assign them certain lessons, they're not going to come to me and ask for me to assign them certain lessons. But then it became, okay, I need to be able to get on my laptop and assign the lesson so that I can get back to the rest of the class, because everything takes time. And I was very uncomfortable at one point using these different programs, and kind of it does take a lot of time. I had to go home, and I've spent numerous hours navigating it, calling them to ask them, well, do you guys have this, and kind of working with them to make different features of the apps even easier for teachers to use. So it does take a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I think one of the things that is that kind of rides alongside the whole issue of the integration of technology in the classroom is the cost-benefit analysis. And in this sense, I'm literally meaning the cost-benefit analysis. We mentioned earlier, schools are spending, upwards of $10 billion in total on, devices and licenses and that sort of thing, which is certainly a tremendous amount of money. And so, devices get old, they are outdated every few years in some cases. There's always a new version of the software that you have to buy a license for, or those sorts of things. So this is going to be, at least for the foreseeable future, a perpetual cost. Is it worth it? Why do you think we should continue or shouldn't?
Personally, I do think it's worth it. When we talk about differentiated instruction and personalized learning, these platforms can take us there. Yes, we do have to, update. Yes, we do have to buy more products and buy the platforms that they're on. But at the end of the day, if our goal is student success, student achievement, making our kids well-rounded individuals, then we have to invest in that.
Yeah. So I think another issue that people often have a lot of questions about, and certainly as a consumer and as an educator I grapple with a lot, is the issue of kind of privacy and ownership and data mining in education. And so some of the biggest data mining companies out there, Google, for example, probably the biggest, is also one of the biggest players in the education technology sector. And Google Classroom is huge. And so the idea that we're having students input information about themselves, and that information is being extracted and used for marketing purposes or other purposes, I think that can be unsettling to some folks. How do you grapple with that issue? What's your take on sort of where the lines in the sand are about what's right and what's not okay in that realm?
Well, I grapple with it by just assuming everyone has good intentions. And so when students are using it, I'm hoping that they're taking this information so that they can make something better, so that they can improve something that they had and kind of transform it into something that becomes even more useful to continue to push student achievement. I don't like to lose sleep over the fact that they might have bad intentions, but when you assume everyone has good intentions, then it becomes easier to swallow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as someone in my work, we have tremendous amounts of content on Google.
Yes.
Personally, I have tremendous amounts of content on Google, and I don't have a better idea. They have tremendous tools that are very useful, as do a number of other vendors, and so. I don't know how to avoid the issue, but it's something to think about for sure.
Yeah, I remember going online because my students' voices are very low. And I did a little research online on how to get them to speak a little louder. And because of my search, these educator microphones came up. And then the ads for educator microphones came up, and it actually stated that, hey, like if you buy, these microphones, then people will be heard in the class, and actually student achievement raises. Sorry. And so I just hope that they had good intentions when they advertised those materials to me.
Yeah. It is funny. I get those same kind of ads sometimes that pop up on various platforms, and someone is watching. Yes. So, I think you, as someone who's really like an early adopter and has a degree in technology and education, it's not a surprise that you have a one-to-one classroom. And as a nation, we're kind of migrating in that direction right now. And I think the assumption is that that's a good thing, and that that is the right place to be given the world that we live in. Do you agree? And or do you think there's maybe scenarios where we shouldn't be pushing technology in the classroom?
No, I agree, because if we're pushing one-to-one technology in the classroom as children, when they become adults, isn't that what they're going to have anyways? So they should be able to use this technology to kind of advance their knowledge and whatever areas that they need as well. Yeah.
So last question. If you had, bucket loads of money, if resources were no obstacle, and you were in charge and you had the ability to do something to improve the use of technology in the classroom, what would you do? What do you think would be the right next step to take these advancements and help them improve our teaching and learning at scale?
Well, I would totally push toward things to be more project-based. I think a lot of times when we do different things in the classroom, they're so separated from each other. Students have no idea that this skill and this skill actually leads to this greater skill. So I would definitely want to teach our teachers, and not just their teachers, myself as well, how to make everything more project-based, and also creating websites, having different instructional coaches come in to show us how to make these websites so that they can make online portfolios, so that their digital footprint online doesn't always have to be pictures or a different status on Facebook.
More than just Instagram.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, again, Evelyn Ennis, 6th grade teacher at George Washington Carver Middle School. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And to all of you out there watching, thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. As always, find full episodes and extra content on our website. That's AOTAshow.com. Also, check us out on Facebook. Please like and follow our page. Same thing on YouTube. And of course, for folks who prefer the podcast, if you're in your car commuting, you could check us out. We're on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Stitcher. Thanks for joining us.